Good afternoon, everyone. I know it's after lunch, but hopefully you guys will stay with us because we have a very interesting presentation that is about to begin. So without any further delay, let me go ahead. Paul Puckering is the Dean of the Professional and Technical Education and Training, PTET Division of the University College of the Cayman Islands, UCCI. As Dean, he has oversight for the School of Hospitality, the full-time and part-time TVET programs, continuing education courses, as well as the newly launched Weekend Workforce Academy, which focuses on customized professional training. As part of his credentials, he holds a master's degree in educational leadership and a certificate in leadership and management, level 7. Additionally, he has over 20 years of experience working in the capacity of educator and administrator at the secondary and tertiary levels in the public and private sectors. His presentation seeks to give a closer insight on how the University College of the Cayman was able to transform the lives of 50 unemployed persons through a $405,000 Cayman European Union grant fund TVET program. So that's a $405,000 European Union grant funded TVET program. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Sir Paul Puckering.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure. I bring greetings from the beautiful Cayman Islands, and I'm sure those who are older would know that at one point in time, the Cayman Islands was part of Jamaica. I'm not sure if the younger ones are aware, but then Jamaica became independent. Cayman Islands stayed on its own. But nevertheless, thank you for accepting my proposal, and I'm happy to share with you and to engage you. As was said, it was part of a project under the European Union funded project, RESEMBID, and it focused on an empowerment of 50 Caymanians through certified skills using TIPS, and I'll explain what that TIPS is. So the aim, as I said, is to give you a closer idea of how we were able to empower these individuals. I'll give you the rationale for the training, how we selected the participants, the different components of the program, the outcomes, and what next we anticipate for the future. So as you know, in 2020, COVID took the world by storm. And out of that, Cayman Islands, like all other countries, saw a collapse in its construction sector, its hospitality sector, and we saw it an opportunity to search for funds to train unemployed, because around that time, the European Union provided funding around the world, and Cayman Islands was one such country that had the opportunity to apply. And so we did a concept paper, and we were able to get approval. Another reason is that in the Cayman Islands, unlike Jamaica and other Caribbean countries, TVET subjects in terms like carpentry, masonry, plumbing, hospitality sector, those are not jobs that you will readily find Caymanians at the front facing. Yeah? And so this was an opportunity to get them to appreciate some of the things that would have built their country, because back in the day, the hospitality sector and the seafarers and those kinds of jobs were what the islands were built on. And finally, the Cayman Islands has a unique structure in that there are a high number of work permit holders. And those persons, I think at the last count, there were like 56% of persons who were non-Caymanian versus kind of like 44% persons who were actually Caymanian or had Caymanian status. And it's against that backdrop that this project was undertaken. So as you can see from this in the yellow that is highlighted, you could see the number of non-Caymanians when the census in 2021 was undertaken, and then the labor force survey in 2022 spring saw the rise in the number of non-Caymanians who were seeking employment or engage in different types of employment in the Cayman Islands. And so, like I said, we undertook this project through the grant funding with RESEMBID. RESEMBID is the Resilient Sustainable Energy Marine Biodiversity Program, and it's had a total amount of 432,000 euros. We set out to train 50 Caymanians across the sector. We were tasked to conduct a labor market survey to determine what skills we would seek to train them and whether these skills were needed. We trained in skill areas, and we also implemented green initiatives. So the research was done by Market Research Services, a Jamaican company here in Jamaica. We contracted them. We had to put out a tender, and they were the company that won the bid to conduct the labor market survey for us. We used a mixed method approach, which consisted of research, desk research. They interviewed stakeholders, which will be immigration, the university, the Chamber of Commerce. Those were some of the stakeholders were interviewed. There were 4 such. They did interviews with 10 sector leaders to understand what were some of the jobs, what were some of the emerging jobs that were going to be needing, or what were some of their needs. And then there were 76 employers that were interviewed through online surveys, and then potential employees, 416 online, 19 face-to-face were conducted. And so this comprehensive labor market research was done to ensure that it had credibility at the end of the day and that the data could be used for the future. So how we went about this project? After conducting the survey, we surveyed and conducted the training needs, and then we identified the training areas under which these persons will be trained. After that, we did a call for suitable candidates, and to be eligible, you had to be Caymanian or prove that you were Caymanian. You had to be unemployed or underemployed, and by underemployed meaning that if you were working, you had to be only working for a maximum of 30 hours per week. Yeah? And so you may be eligible for the scholarship to pursue this training. We did interviews and we selected a total of 63 persons. Even though we were going for 50, we selected a higher number because we understood that there may have been attrition along the way. And so, as you know, if you are using grant funders' money, they expect that you deliver within the target that you set out in your original proposal. And so that's why we targeted a higher number than we were expecting. And then we launched the training. So this is a picture of the group of who were part of the launch. As you can see, we tried to get a cross-section of both male and female. In some areas, we were not able to get the number of females, and I'll explain that along the way. But one of the things about the project, it wanted to have gender across the sector so that it was not all male or not all female, but that we were ensuring that we had persons from across both genders. So these were the areas that were then selected for training based on the needs analysis and based on the types of individuals. We had 7 persons who then decided to do reception services based on their need, 10 hospitality, supervisory management. We had 7 doing basic construction. By basic construction, introduction to what is construction and the different aspects of construction. 7 who did construction technology, and that exposed them to all aspects of construction. 6 persons did solar photovoltaic, and that became a new and emerging program. And ICT help desk, 26 persons, and those who accounted for the 63 persons that we started with. Now, one of the things that we looked at, and to ensure that the project became a success, we implemented what we call a TIPS component. And by TIPS, they had the training, but we embedded that part of it, an internship was going to be a mandatory experience, because we wanted to ensure that they had the experience of working in the world of work, and that by completion, they would be potential employees within the jobs that they were placed for internships. We also sought partners with different industry leaders to support them through mentors, because we recognized that being unemployed, many of them had barriers that need to be fulfilled even though they were being trained. And so some persons who were single mothers thought to themselves, you know, I want to do this to better myself, but I have children to feed, so who's going to give me the money if I'm coming to class in the day? And so we partnered with the Immigration Department, which is known as WORC, W-O-R-C, and they gave a stipend to the participants who met the criteria of proving that they did not have the financial support. And so they gave support of about 4 months duration, which was able to help them until they went on their internships. And success, measuring whether or not they completed it and what next after they would have completed their internship. So I'm going to show a short video. Is it my volume or? I'm not sure. I think so.
Are you hearing it? Are you hearing it?
No.
Are you hearing me?
No.
Start over again. And then use the mic beside it. Put the mic on. The audio is coming from the computer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where's your volume key? Let me just escape. Can you exit full screen? Let's see if this is connected here. Everything looks fine to me. You can try it again.
Global. So there is essentially a global skills gap that we're seeing not just in Cayman but across the world, and students are coming out of university. My name is Craig Drummond. I am the head of technology recruitment for Invenio Global. So there is essentially a global skills gap that we're seeing not just in Cayman but across the world, and students are coming out of university with fantastic academic credentials, but they lack that real-world experience. And something that we found very useful about the students from UCCI is having those vocational programs, those internships, and recent qualifications at the CompTIA, which really sets them apart from other students. The differentiating factor in Cayman is the reliance on local Caymanians and the demand for local talent. Something that most of our clients demand is to have that Caymanian status or that Caymanian RERC. And specifically in Cayman, it's something that we find more and more important to recruit from local Caymanian institutions like UCCI. So something that we found very useful from the students from UCCI is the recent Resended programme. I think these programmes are essential to the sort of long-term impact of what it will mean to the Cayman labour market. We're already seeing the short-term impacts, that is getting students internships, work placements, And I think one thing that UCCI have done very, very well from my perspective is engaging with the private sector, actually working with real businesses. So continuing to engage with businesses through programs like Resembid and other engagements is definitely where you need to be. Giving students the opportunity to learn real world business skills and acquire codified qualifications is definitely the way to keep ahead of the curve. But really the real benefit of these programs will be seen 5-10 years in the future when the individuals graduating these programs are IT managers, IT directors, when they can really shape the labour market and drive Cavan forward.
This
Right, so that was one of the partners that we worked with. So some of the key outcomes, let me just make it. As I said, we started with 63 and we ended with 53. And so we surpassed our expectation for the project. 90% of them are either employed or continuing studying. Yeah. At the UCCI, all of our programs are now internationally aligned with accredited programs. When we started the project, students would only get certificates of completion, but part of the process, we entered arrangements with CompTIA for those who were doing the computer programs. For the construction programs, we partnered with a company called NCCER, the National Centre for Education Research. And what NCCER does and why we chose them was because, one, they provided all of the training materials that the teachers needed. So the teachers did not have to go and create their own PowerPoint presentations or anything like that. It came fully packaged through the partnership with Pearson Publishing. The second thing about that certification process is that it allowed for the instructors to proctor the exams, and the exams were managed by the awarding body. So the tests were not set by the instructors, and so the reliability and of it was managed by the awarding body. And so they controlled when tests were completed. Another advantage of it was that students were tested per module. And so as they completed a module, they were tested either practically or by a test, and the portal held their scores. And so if a student did not complete the program, but they came back at a later date, they're able to continue training, and the system holds their credentials for them to complete. We completed the labor market assessment as was expected. We did 1 solar bench and 2 EV charging stations in meeting our renewable energy program, and 3 new courses were added to the UCCI's list of programs for offered coming out of this program in part of sustainability. And so now I'll let you hear some of the feedback from some of the participants.
It was my passion for the hospitality industry. It's what I like, and that's what I wanted to really do. And get qualified here where I live now, where in the place that I call home at the moment, that was a plus.
Through Resembid and thanks to European Union and Expertise France, we were able to implement a training project that saw impact the lives of 53 Caymanians. This project allowed us to not only train these persons, but allow them to get experiences on the job. It also allowed us to help them realize their dream of having some form of certification.
It is very important to be qualified in this country, in any country, but living here, having the opportunity to work for the Ritz-Carlton, it is like a great accomplishment. So the standards and all the good values that they have at the Ritz-Carlton, that's been amazing as I grow personally and professionally. I feel fulfilled, and to me it's a great accomplishment.
The Westin, they have been a partner for the hospitality sector, and one of their staff would have worked as a mentor, and one of the students, her experience has helped her to not only become more self-assured, but also be clear about what they want to do for the future as a young adult.
When I saw advertising the program, I said, let me go for it, see if I can get a certificate and get a job, a good paying job. The course was wonderful. I learned a lot. It's meant a lot to me, my children. I can provide for them more better and, see them growing in a good environment. I'm so grateful with this program because, if it wasn't for this program, I wasn't gonna have a job. I want to still be looking for a job and stuff. So it's a total life change for me.
This project is supported by Resembid, funded by the European Union and implemented by Expert.
So some of the lessons we learned, the need for greater screening. Even though we screened at the beginning, we recognize we need to screen even more because some people felt, or some participants felt, it's a scholarship, it was free, let me just go for it. But not that they were going to be invested in the training and the future that it provided. So that is one thing we learned. Make mentorship more robust. We recognize that it worked, so that ensure that all persons go through that process. Seek support for stipend. As I said, many of our participants not only had financial problems, but they had other difficulties, and so providing some kind of financial support would help them to continue or stay in the program. The grant funders' expectations. I'm not sure if any of you have ever applied for grant funding, but the kinds of paperwork and expectations that they have, you cannot deviate very much from it. If you say you're going to finish by a specific time, you have to finish by that time. In our case, we had to ask for 3 months extension, but that 3 months could only be time with no additional expense added to it. So whatever we had to do, we had to finish within that 3-month period. And develop traces studies. I think that's the next step that we will look to see. Where are those 50 persons? What are they doing? What has happened since they've gone into the world of work? We know that they're employed, but I think another study would look at, how has it benefited them? What is it reaching down? How is it benefiting their families? And so, for the journey to continue, we will look to establishment of stakeholder partnerships through paid internships and establish what we call apprenticeship. We don't really have a strong apprenticeship program in the Cayman Islands, but that's one of the things that we will look to explore. Establish Cayman Islands chapter of the National Honor Society for Construction Trades. We believe that adding such a chapter will help to add value to what TVET is seen and give prestige to the technical trades, especially in the Cayman Islands. Seek other opportunities for grant funding and scholarships, because we recognize that through that, persons came forward to be trained. Yeah? And if that's the way that we'll reach the locals, then we will have to go that route. And work to implement some of the findings of the labor market in terms of training. And that has also begun. The university has partnered with Cayman Compass, which is one of the local newspapers, media houses, to do further research and in-depth analysis of some of the findings. And they've done some focus groups of some of the areas, and so shortly they'll be publishing what are some of the things that would have been coming out from those focus groups. And so, thank you so much for staying with me. I hope that it's giving you an insight of who we are in the Cayman Islands and what we were able to achieve. And if you have any ideas or suggestions that can help us take it even further, we welcome them. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Mr. Puckering. So TVET jobs had a low take-up in the Cayman Islands. However, Mr. Puckering managed to drive change through the Resilient Sustainable Energy Marine Biodiversity Program, RESEMBID. What is RESEMBID? This is a program that targeted 50 unemployed Caymanians to give each participant an opportunity for training in different areas to include hospitality and tourism management, construction, training as receptionists, and ICT help desk. Mr. Puckering and his team applied an approach that incorporated training, internship, and partnership that would ultimately lead to success. The TIPS method is what they call it. Ultimately, the team ended with 53 from 63 selected students, and over 90% are now employed. The students had opportunities through partnerships with companies in the different areas of training, ICT, construction, and others, as mentioned above. Self-assured and life-changing are just two ways that persons described the program. And we saw the participants here doing same, sharing their feedback on how this had benefited them, and not just them. The benefit, went on to their family. This made some persons into providers, things that they couldn't have done before. The impact with the lady who spoke as well, her children and so on. And so this has definitely been an impactful program that was funded by the EU, and one that we can surely try to incorporate through grant writing in some of our institutions as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm now opening the floor for persons to indicate by raise of hands. Any questions that you may have? Yes. Is there a free mic? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
My question. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for that very inspiring presentation, sir. My two questions. First of all, I wanted to know what were the specifics of the training, especially for the hospitality persons, like what components compose the training. And second, what could have caused the attrition? Because I recall you said that they got stipend. So did you find out what were the causes for the attrition?
So the first one for the hospitality, we did reception services through City and Guilds, which is their main office house here. So we did the City and Guilds component for reception services level 2 for those persons who had an interest in customer service and front facing. Those were the ones who were not at supervisory level, and so we thought that's why we broke it into two components. Those who were now entering the world of work, wanted to get into the hospitality sector, and so the reception services was the one that we provided them with. Those who did supervisory management, we used the American Lodging Hotel Association certification, and through their program, they looked at different aspects of supervisory management, how to work in teams, how to manage. So it focused, those participants had to demonstrate that they were able to supervise someone or had the opportunity to do it because it needed for them to demonstrate skills as supervisors on the job. So it focused on their supervisory skills, how to lead teams, how to deal with matters that will arise out of conflict and things like that. The second question, remind me again, please. Okay. Now, some of the attrition, without having done a comprehensive study on it, but from observations, were one, that the stipend was still not sufficient for some people to maintain their livelihood. Yeah. The Cayman Islands is an expensive jurisdiction, and $6 an hour is what minimum wage, and so they were only getting a stipend which would be $50 a week. Yeah, and so if you did the math and they had a young child or two, in some instances, others, the rigor of the program, of the training, I don't think some understood that it would make so much commitment in terms of their training, because they had training sessions throughout the week, sometimes for 3-hour blocks if they were doing practicum, and so those were some of the things. Others were on the university campus, smoking and vaping is not allowed, and so some of the participants found it difficult to be on campus and not being able to go and take their little smoke break and things like that, and so we had to enforce some of the university rules, because we could not allow them to do that. And then students are asking, so why is this cohort being allowed to bend the rules while we are under a different rule? And then finally, some just thought, you know what, let me go and work and do it at a later date. Yeah? We had 2 of them, though, that opted to continue the program and do it with the evening students, because the same program that we ran in the day exclusively for those 50 doing construction, they integrated, so they went to work in the day and integrated they continue their studies in the evening, because the modules are the same that they were doing, and their grades were held in the daytime, they were able to transition into the evening. And so that was one of the reasons why we opted to use the NCCR model as well for training for construction trades. You're welcome.
Your last comment about the persons transitioning to the evening, but I wondered at the numbers of enrollment, 7 per, is it that because you had the funding you were able to afford delivering? Okay, because that would seem to the economics of it. But the critical thing, though, commendable program, and it underscores that, notwithstanding the high per capita income, etc., but you will still have these challenges in a context such as the Cayman Islands. All right, but how will it now be integrated within the UCCI going forward? What's the plan where this is concerned to deal with other persons?
So thank you for that question. So coming out of this program, all of the construction trades programs are now accredited and use the same models. So the evening students use the same certification. They can now graduate at the annual commencement ceremony. Before they could not, because they were not receiving any form of certification. We now have employers who are now sending their employees to be trained because they've recognized the value of the certification. We have employers who are asking for customized training because they have looked at the curricula and decided, my HVAC trainees, they are good on the job in electrical, in HVAC matters, but the electrical side is weak. Can you put together, using these modules, train hours in these? And so we were able to do that for them. So we've seen it, our enrollments are up since the project has ended. We are now in discussion with the Rotary Sunshine, which is a non-profit organization in Cayman, who want to do a similar program. And so we are working with them to craft. The funding from them won't be as high, but they are very eager to cement their name and to have a similar program duplicated. To finally add to that, with that, we would not do it separately. We will integrate them into our normal training, since we now have accreditation across, because it will not support running 7 persons economically. It's not economically viable, so they will be integrated.
Any other questions? All right, so thanks again, Mr. Pokering. And on behalf of the organizers, this is a small token of thanks. Do we have? Oh, maybe we should move from. Let me put this down.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing today? Great.
sure where the moderator is. I'm not the moderator, but I will not have you begin the session like that. So everybody, moderator improvised. So this afternoon we will have in this session Dr. Donna Paul Wilson, JP, Executive Director of the Council of Community Colleges of Jamaica. She will be speaking to higher education institutions and their contribution to the Sustainable Development Goals. May I have you put your hands together as we make welcome Dr. Paul Wilson.
Thank you very much, Dr. Edwards-Watson, for the introduction. And thank you all for being in this presentation. On behalf of the CCCJ, heartiest congratulations to Trenchtown Polytechnic College and Jamaica Tertiary Education Commission for having this event, the inaugural research symposium, to showcase what is happening in higher education. So this afternoon, I'm going to be speaking with you briefly on higher education institutions' contribution to the Sustainable Development Goals. And it is an interesting dialogue that we're going to be having. I tried to make the presentation as participatory as possible so that you don't sleep on me. So when we talk about Sustainable Development Goals, we are aware that the United Nations Transforming Our World, which is the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, is considered to be one of the most ambitious and important global agreements. This agenda has 17 sustainable development goals, and from the screen, you can see the wheel, 17 of them. These goals are to serve as a guide to track what is happening in the world and to address the world's most pressing challenges. So I have a little activity for you. I'm going to ask you to take out your smartphones. You have internet access, and you're going to scan this QR code. Are you there yet? Long time? All right. So the first question, what is the first question? It's not active? All right, so give me a second, let me do that. It's coming up, it's coming up. It's taking a little while. All right, in the interest of time, I'll do it at perhaps the end of the presentation. All right, so we're going to come back to that slide. These are the 17 goals. How many persons are familiar with them? Let me see a raise of hand. Some of them. All right. So those are the 17 of them. And pay close attention. We're going to come back to them. All right? For this presentation, I'm going to be using the UN Secretary General's definition on what sustainable development is and global developments, right? So here we have global developments being the targets that aim the targets that aim to sustainably increase the economic welfare of the community, maintain the sustainability of people's social life, preserve the environmental quality, and ensure justice and the implementation of good governance. So the 17 goals that I just showed you, they are covered under those 3 broad areas. Sustainable development, according to the UN General Secretary, is where development meets the needs of the Industrial Revolution, and that's 4.0, without compromising the ability of future generations. So what is it we are going to be utilizing now should not compromise what your children, your grandchildren will use in the future. However, there are challenges with the SDGs. The 17 goals, they have a number of indicators, over 190 indicators, I believe. And based on the agreement with the UN and the related countries to include Jamaica, we are to achieve all the 17 goals and their indicators by 2020. By 2030, we're in 2025 now, and 2030 is 5 years away. But there are challenges. So the reports are that we will not be able to achieve the 17 Sustainable Development Goals by 2030 for many reasons. One, the objectives require a longer period. Some of the objectives. 2, financial support is lacking, so there's no fund available, or limited funding is available to countries, in particular developing countries like Jamaica, to activate the responses to the crisis that are as a result that we're trying to solve. Global crisis already as well is one other factor why we'll not be able to achieve the SDGs. We had COVID-19, the Ukraine war, and just war in general, just what is happening around us. So those are some of the factors that will not allow us to meet the SDGs for 2030. So what I'm showing you here is the 2024 report on the SDGs, and it's for all countries. This is worldwide. Again, you see the 17 goals there. The red indicates that there are major challenges worldwide in obtaining that particular SDG. The orange indicates significant challenges. The yellow, challenges remain. Green, the SDG is achieved. And when you have a full stop, it means, or a dot, it means the data is not available. And then the arrows know, the red going down, decreasing, orange stagnating, yellow moderately improving, and green on track. This is the world report for 2024, worldwide. So we are really, let me pause to acknowledge Dr. Kassan Troop, our permanent secretary. Welcome, Doc. So we're really in a crisis with attaining the SDGs. Now, you should look here and notice that SDG number 4 speaks to quality education. Now, this is a little blurry, but this is a comparison with Jamaica. Well, 2 years in Jamaica. This one here is for 2023, and over there we have 2024, the data for 2024. Now, if you're able to see, you should see the arrows and also the colors for the SDG. Remember, our focus is on which SDG? 4. So in the 2023 report has orange here, and it has the red arrow going down. So the red going down means that it is decreasing, right? And the orange means it is stagnated. That's 2023. Look over 2024. It is not orange, but it is yellow, all right? So there are some improvements in terms of quality education in Jamaica. And thanks to our permanent secretary who walked in just in time. However, the efforts that we are making, what we're doing now, will not allow us to achieve quality education by 2030. Hence, the arrow is still red. All right? Now, that is a problem for us. We're trying to fix that. How are we going to fix that? Tertiary education institutions, colleges in Jamaica, we have a role to play. And that is what we want to look at. So our focus today is on quality education and how higher education institutions can help to achieve the indicators in the SDGs. So SDG 4 speaks to quality education, and there are 7 targets for that SDG, and there are 3 what some researchers refer to as methods of implementation. Of those 10 targets, there are about 7 of them that are specific to higher education institutions. And this is how we are going to contribute to the SDGs. So the first is target 4.3, which speaks to equal access to affordable technical and vocational education. It is imperative for us, if we're going to reduce barriers to skill development and technical and vocational education, that colleges start from the secondary level, the upper echelon in the secondary level, to provide lifelong learning opportunities for all learners. The provision of tertiary education should be made progressively free in line with existing international agreements. So we have to talk about financing for tertiary education. And I know that our parent ministry is actively pursuing that. Then we go to target 4.4, which speaks to increase the number of people with relevant skills or for financial success. So by 2030, substantially increase the number of youth and adults who have relevant skills, including technical and vocational skills for employment. So here again, we are seeing where higher education institutions are called upon to ensure that the programs that are offered are such nature that it will equip the learners with the requisite skills so that they can have a decent life. Then we go over to 4.5, eliminate discrimination in education. So by 2030, eliminate gender disparities in education and ensure equal access to all levels of education and vocational training for the vulnerable. When I was in high school, I didn't get the opportunity to do a technical or a vocational skill because at that time, some type of persons did those areas. But I wasn't a bright student still, you know, so I don't know how I never did it. So we have made significant strides in that area where a skill area is now open to just about all, if not most, if not all of our learners at the secondary level. So we have made strides in that area. Then we go to 4.5, universal literacy and numeracy. So by 2030, ensure all youth and a substantial portion of adults, both men and women, achieve literacy and numeracy. All right? So we continue to work through that. And then we have 4.7, education for sustainable development and global citizenship. By 2030, ensure that all learners acquire the knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development. So it is not just having sustainable development goals and the learners not sure what they are. You have to be knowledgeable of what these skills are so that you can help to alleviate the challenges that may arise. And then the last one we have is by 2020, substantially expand globally the number of scholarships available to developing countries, in particular least developed countries. We have some scholarships that are from international partners, and if you visit the Ministry of Finance's website from time to time, you'll see those opportunities. But locally, our parent ministry, the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, has scholarship opportunities for learners pursuing higher education. All right? So those areas we have made strides in. So we see here that education plays an important role in fulfilling the SDGs, even though one of the SDG is quality education. Within the other SDGs, there you will find where education has to play a role for you to achieve those. All right? So, SDG 16, SDG 3, SDG 5, SDG 8, SDG 12, SDG 13, and 1. Those are some other SDGs that will require education in order for us to alleviate poverty. All right? So you have to know what is it that we are doing. So if we were to look at SDG 1, no poverty, one indicator is the proportion of total government spending on essential services to include education. If we were to look at good health and well-being, by 2030, ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive health care services, including family planning, information, and education. So the role that tertiary institutions need to play is going to be very critical. It's not that we are by the way. It's integral to Jamaica. It's integral to you having a better life, education. So how can higher education institutions contribute to the SDGs? And here we have teaching and learning. Through teaching and learning, provide the students with the knowledge, skills, and motivation to understand and address the challenges of the SDG. How is that going to happen? Included in the curriculum. All right, so at the CCCJ, we have begun the process where we are greening our curriculum, and my colleague will be presenting on that a little later on. In addition to that, we have developed some programs that will require jobs where you can solve the issues that would have arisen coming out of the SDG. So we have an occupational associate degree in renewable energy. We have an associate degree in climate smart agriculture. We have an associate degree in agro-processing and business management. So the knowledge that and the skills that the learners will need to ensure that we are in keeping with fulfilling the requirements of the SDGs has to start in teaching and learning. Empower and mobilize learners. How do we empower learners? Have our learners, let our learners be heard. So have them on the governance committee, student bodies. And I think in our framework, there's a student representative on each school board. All right? So that's one way in which we can mobilize our learners. Embrace opportunities for capacity building of learners and faculty to address SDG-related challenges, like what is happening here now. The research presentations are on the SDGs and how, so it is providing more information. Oh. The other area in which higher education institutions can contribute is through research. And again, we're here with the research. Encourage and promote the SDGs as a topic of research within the institution. Again, congratulations to Trenchtown and J-TEC for leading the way. Actively supporting national and local implementation of SDGs. We cannot change the world between now and 2030, but we can do what we're doing in our corner, all right? And that is what we ought to do. Advocate for national support and coordination of research in SDG. Then we talk about governance. Align the institution's governance structure and operational policies with the SDGs. So this is higher level now. So at the board level, at the management of the institution level, you're going to ensure that the practices are in keeping with SDGs, and I will share some of that a little later on. External leadership. Strengthen public engagement and participation in addressing the SDGs. So talk about it. Before you can talk about it, you have to know them. Play a lead role in policy development and advocacy for sustainable development. demonstrate the importance of the university or the college in SDG implementation. It is the skills that the learners will learn in the institutions from the various programs that will help them to solve climate change issues, that will help them to solve health challenges, that will help them to reduce poverty, all right? The United Nations in over 10 years collected some best practices on how colleges and universities can really make an impact in their own way towards the SDGs. So they came up with 25 best practices. I'm not going to show you all 25, just going to speak to a few of them. So, Monash University in Australia, they started with leadership for the SDGs. What is this? They have conducted world-leading research, education, and engagement. They have developed a world-leading research, education, and engagement institution with a mission to advance the well-being of people and planet. Through this, the Institute has advanced SDGs literacy and cross-sector action, supported the preparation of progress reports on the SDGs inspired by the Global University Action. So whatever they're doing, whatever they have done in their institution about SDG, they share that with the world. So they don't just do it and keep it to themselves. Then we go to Pakistan, where they have a SDG ambassador program. This program aims to empower students, faculty, and staff to become agents of positive change by promoting sustainable practices. Just appoint someone in your institution to lead the charge. All right? Then we go to Venezuela. And Venezuela had community leadership initiative. The institution created the community leadership initiative to train leaders and members of the community surrounding the university to raise awareness on environmental and sustainability matters. I hope you're seeing that these are not big activities. These are small activities that we can all try. Then we go to Bangladesh. And I like this one. Sustainable procurement policy. I did a course last week on procurement, and one of the things that came out of that course was, are we doing sustainable procurement in Jamaica? We have a tendency, if it is broken, we throw it out. Can it be replaced? Can we get it fixed? It's not everything that we can throw out. Can it be fixed? So, in Bangladesh, the American International University in Bangladesh, purchasing decisions within the university are aimed to balance social, economic, and environmental factors and consider the impacts resulting from production, transportation, use, and disposal of products or services. I want to challenge the colleges that are here today. For your welcome package for your students, give them a reusable drinking bottle. Brand it with your institution name on it. So that will reduce the amount of plastic that is on the compound. I listened earlier to Professor Weber, And he indicated that, yes, we have a recycling plastic project, but you collect the plastic and it is not collected. It is left there, all right? So that's my challenge to the institutions. Look at sustainable procurement practices and start with reducing the plastic drinking containers on your compound and give the students a branded, reusable cup. And students, you need to pay for it, right? So that is what the world is doing. Just some of the things the world is doing. What are we doing at the CCCJ in terms of sustainable development? What is our contribution to the 17 goals? So for curriculum, and again, I told you my colleague will speak to that, we have started the process of ensuring that once you do a CCCJ degree, you have the knowledge about sustainable development practices and the goals. All right? It's not in all our programs yet because we're doing it, we're taking it one step at a time. For our course delivery, we have different modalities of delivery. So you can do online, you can do face-to-face. We are making sure that access to quality education is available. We also develop programs that are in keeping with solutions to the Sustainable Development Goals. In September of last year, we had our World Federation of Colleges and Polytechnic Congress, and we had a session with our student leaders on sustainable development goals. And I'll just share something that one of the participants wrote. Attending the WFCP Youth Congress in Montego Bay was an enriching and transformative experience. I had the privilege of engaging in insightful discussions on AI in education and UN Sustainable Development Goals, youth empowerment and professional development. Connecting with over 25 students from Canada, the UK, and Jamaica truly defined what it means to be a global citizen. I was able to immerse myself in the Jamaican culture. I have always assumed that people love Jamaica because of sand and the beaches. I learned otherwise. I love Jamaica because of the people. So we have something to offer. And one of the SDGs about culture. So that's a part of us, how we interact with others. Research, we continue to do research and to share our research findings. Procurement, we are having discussions on how we too can implement sustainable procurement practices. So we are going to be limiting the plastic containers that we purchase at the organization. We're looking at fixing the things that are able to fix. We have introduced Water Monday, not juice, but Water Monday, only water. And we have an accountable partner. What can you do? And Set for HEI has a framework for us. I'll tell you what that is in a few. Chances are you are doing a lot already in achieving the SDGs. Start there. In order to do that, map what you are already doing. What is it you're doing? What sustainable practice do you have at your institution? Map that. So we all may not be able to take on the Ground Zero project or climate smart project, but whatever you're doing, start there. Build internal capacity and ownership identify priorities, opportunities, and gaps, integrate, implement, and embrace the SDGs, and of course, monitor, evaluate, and communicate. So it's time to act now. Are you ready? And I have some sites here that will help you as you integrate sustainable development goals into your institution. So there's a self-assessment that you can do on behalf of the institution. There's the sdgacademy.org, and there you can find free online courses about SDGs that you can take. They are self-paced. If you want the certificate, of course, you'll have to pay for that. The UN sites and the best practices, I included those websites too. But in all you do, it is best to have an accountable partner. Someone who will sort of nudge you to say, hey, you promised you're going to do that. You're going off track, so let us say we can come back on. And the SDG Accord is one such tool. The SDG Accord is the university and college sector's collective response to the global goal. The purpose of this accord is to inspire, celebrate, and advance the critical role of education. It's a commitment made by learning institutions to another that they will deliver the SDGs and they will report annually. All right, this should work. This should take you to the SDG Accord, so you can scan this. Got it? Okay. So while you do that, SET is sustainability evaluation tool for higher education institutions. I think I have the site for that as well. So I encourage you, colleges, universities, to sign the SDG Accord. Currently, there are 406 institutions that have signed. It's open to institutions, it's open to corporations, it's open to students. So there are different levels for the signature. Once you sign, your only commitment is that you will provide a report at the end of the year on what you are doing. You would have heard some time ago that the University of the West Indies, Mona, was ranked high in the Higher Education Journal. And it is one of the things that was used was their participation in the SDG goals. So there are some other tools that you can use to keep you on track. You have the Sustainability Tracking Assessment and Rating System, the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, and Higher Education Sustainability Initiative. This is also another community forum that will help you through the SDG journey. Thank you. I will take your questions if there's any.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ryan Green, and I should be your moderator for this segment, but I hear we're doing very well with time, so I will help Dr. Wilson along. Are there any questions? A very involved and informative presentation. Yes? I'm helping you along really quickly because we want to hear from our permanent secretary. Did I hear a yes over here? No? SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, and us? Wow, and Dr. Wilson, it seems you've hit the nail on the head. Okay, at this time then, I will welcome to the platform the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, Dr. Kassan Troop, to address us briefly. Please make her welcome.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. You know, when you're the permanent secretary, you can't be ordinary. I just wanted to slip in and sit down and listen and just show my face. But I must also share how proud I am of this engagement being led by Trenchtown Polytechnic College and J-TEC. I must register that. Extremely proud. It's really good as a permanent secretary to be in a forum where we're not complaining about what we do not have. It's refreshing. I'm always under the gun. PS, we need this. PS, we need that. But today we're talking about real transformation. We're talking about the tertiary sector leading the conversation for change and development in our country. We're talking about how we can commit and contribute to the global development. This is what this conversation is about, and I am a very proud permanent secretary today. I am particularly proud because of my antecedents. So I must declare to you that Trenchtown Polytechnic is not just a Trenchtown Polytechnic, but you know it's a transformed institution coming from the Trenchtown Comprehensive High School. I want to register that because I'm a graduate. Of that transformed comprehensive high school. So when Doc said she wasn't bright and she didn't get the traditional experience, it's not about that experience. It's about really, how do you use your learning? How do you use your education? That's what the transformation is all about, and that's what this is about. So today I'm a proud graduate of the Trenchtown Comprehensive High School, and I am proud to be associated with the Polytechnic College, and I'm a proud member of the education fraternity. So today we are also registering our leader at the CCCJ, who is directing our focus on the SDGs, because as Jamaicans, we all have a part to play. You have heard the presentation. It's not just the tertiary, but we each have a part to play. Even a student, there's a role for you. How can you contribute to us advancing the SDGs, and what does that mean for us? We have the different areas of that. Our transformation program is so aligned. When we talk about trend, you have heard it, right? Transforming education for what? National development. And that's what the SDG is all about. So it's national and global regional development. So Jamaica is on that trajectory. So when the presenter talks about TVET as one of the pillars in the SDG, we are already there because our transformation as a pillar for TVET. As we develop Jamaica, you would have heard our Prime Minister declaring that Jamaica is a what? STEM island, which means that we have to move fast in building out the enabling support for science, technology, engineering, and math. We're not leaving the arts behind because we didn't amplify it in the STEM and say STEAM because the arts is what we do. You can't say Jamaica without the arts. If you talk about our music, if you talk about the sports, everybody knows us for that. So we are not downplaying that. We just want to get the other areas up so we can now be drivers of technology. We can not only be users of other people's research,
but we are doing research ourselves, and we are using the research to develop our nation. For far too long, we have just been using, but we have to reframe how we converse with our learners in Jamaica. We are no longer preparing you for the workforce. We are preparing you to design the workforce, to take charge of the workforce. We're not only preparing you to be successful in 1, 2, 3. No, we want you to use that technology to problem solve. And that's what the learning experience should be about. Not just passing all the CXCs and passing all the CAPEs, but what are you gaining in terms of the skills? Are you problem solving throughout that journey? Are you innovating? And I'm emphasizing these skills because even in my own experience as a mother, I talk to my own children in this way. I am not sending you to school to pass the CXC and the maths and everything. I want you to tell me how you're using your knowledge in this house. So when they have conflicts, I say, go and problem solve and come back to me. And I'm very serious about it. When we're talking about the food in our household and if it is still dated, I say, what knowledge do you bring to this conversation? What are you supposed to pay attention to on the labels? How do you live by your learning? Because education is really living. It's really living. So again, I want to close by saying how proud I am that we are championing our own research. And we're not going to leave it there. We want to use that research. I'm someone who published my own research that I did throughout my doctoral studies. And I'm anxious to see the ripple effect of that because that came out of my own applied experience, Fillmore, when I was a principal of a high school. As I continued on my own transformation journey in that school, I saw the benefit of parent involvement. And I said I wanted to research this to take my school to another level. And believe me, I did it. And today we have a model in Jamaica out of that research. My minister went to an international conference and she said, Minister, I have something for Jamaica. A nice book on parental inclusion that you need to look in and invest in. And when she brought the book, Miss Brown, it was written by Cassan Troop. And my minister said to her, but that's my permanent secretary. And they're using that in other spaces. And I'm just saying, that's what it's about. How can you take the learning to advance a cause in your country? Because you have to make the connection. So it is research for learning, it's research for development, it's research for the transformation of your economic and social realities. So I want to say thank you, Trenchtown Polytechnic. You're in my heart. Miss Brown, you know you're in my heart. So Miss Brown right there, she taught me. I have to put it there. Wave to them, miss. Taught me in my high school journey. Yes, and called me out when I was not on my track. She said, I noticed a slip in your grades. What is happening? And I had to get back on track. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you. And that's what we do as educators. We mold lives. We unearth dreams. We make futures possible for our young people. So let's use this knowledge, let's use this experience, let's use the research to transform Jamaica, land we love. God bless you.
Thank you, Permanent Secretary Troop. At this time, we would like to present on behalf of, this is Trenchtown Polytechnic, to Doc for your very informative presentation. Yes, the photo up. We must. Okay, we thank you so much for your exceptional research and for sharing with us. Ooh, that looked nice. Anyway, put your hands together for her, please. Thank you, Doc. Okay, we are on time. And now I ask that we invite to the podium Mr. Jordan Williams, and he will lead us into the declaration. and he's from Trenchtown Polytechnic College.
Good afternoon again, colleagues. So J-TEC and Trenchtown will do a press briefing at another time to do the official signing of the declaration, since some of the principals left. But since we committed to it today, we just want you to know what the declaration is about. The SAFE Declaration, 2025, January, Kingston, Jamaica. So SAFE, S, sustainable practices embedded in institutional strategies. A, actions driving food security, energy conservation, and water management. F, focus on applied research, awareness, and curricular innovation. E, education as a catalyst for equitable development and resilience building. The colleges are committed to strategic integrations of the SDGs, documenting and researching practices, enhancing food security, energy conservation and renewable energy approaches, water harvesting and conservation, greening the curriculum, reduce printing and paper use, tree planting as a unified metric and improving food security, collective culture towards sustainability. By committing to these principles, we affirm our role as leaders in transforming education into a powerful catalyst for sustainable development. Together, we will address the unique vulnerabilities of small island developing states, mitigate climate risks, and create resilient communities that are equipped to thrive in an ever-changing global landscape. Declaration. We declare our unwavering commitment to embedding sustainable practices and the SDGs into the core of our institutions. This declaration reflects our shared responsibility to lead by example, inspire future generations, and contribute meaningfully to the collective advancement of Jamaica, Latin America and the Caribbean, and the global community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I have the power of moderator, and I know that J-TEC and apparently Trenchtown, they always have prizes and surprises. So I'm putting both on the spot. And we just mentioned some pillars of the declaration between the two institutions, and they use the acronym SAFE. Can anybody tell me what SAFE represents? S? Okay, so everybody gets the prize. Fine. S is sustainable. A, just use one word. Actions. F, did you write it? Okay. F is for focus and E is for education. So we can look for the building and the development of our sector between these institutions using these pillars. At this time, well, I tell you that we're right on time. We are being invited to go to the last conference session, concurrent session. Thank you so much. And that is in, let's read this very quickly. Is this strand one? Strand one? Please. Thank you so much. Strand. Go ahead.
All right, so we will have the Strand 1 presentation in Caucus Room 1. So all persons who would like to go to that session, please proceed down the hall to Caucus Room 1. Strand 4 is in Caucus Room 2. All persons who are interested in that session, proceed there now. They're about to start. Titles, sure. So Strand 1, Human Capital Management Strategies to Sustain Profitability of Private Sector Companies in Jamaica. That's Strand 1, that's in Caucus Room 1. Strand 4, Enhancing Teacher AI Collaboration through a Chat Framework, a Mixed Method Study in Trinidad and Tobago, is in Caucus Room 2. And Strand 2, Bridging Sustainable Development Goals, Policies and Practices in the Caribbean, Measuring the Greening of CCCJ Programs is in caucus room 3. So you may all distribute yourselves according to your interest.
And with that, we say thank you. Have a good time. Okay, just one more time. Strand 1, Human Capital Management Strategies, Dr. Peter Gay Waugh. Strand 4, Enhancing Teacher AI Collaboration through a Chat Framework, Mrs. Charlene Baksh. Strand 2, Bridging Sustainable Development Goals, Policies and Practices in the Caribbean, Mr. Lance Scott. And that's caucus room 1, 2, and 3, respectively. Have a good afternoon, everybody.